Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Musician's Mentor Podcast. As usual, I am your host, Travis Mark, and today I have the distinct pleasure of speaking with Smash Mouth guitarist Sean Hurwitz. Sean is based in Los Angeles and has played with an array of artists including Enrique Iglesias, Judith, Nick Carter, and many, many more. During this interview, we talk about life as a working musician, we talk about touring, we talk about how the opportunity to play with Smash Mouth came about, and, as usual, many other band-related topics. I'd like to quickly remind you that if you are enjoying the content that I'm putting out here, to please leave me a rating or review across your favorite streaming platform. It helps us as a podcast get higher up in the food chain, if you want to think of it like that, and therefore allows us to be found with greater ease. So thank you. That's enough of my rambling. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the one, the only, Sean Hurwitz. Sean Hurwitz, guitar sensation for bands like Smash Mouth, Gin Blossoms, Nick Carter, Enrique, Judith, so on and so on and so on. I'm not going to do your full intro. I know you've heard the program before. Thanks for checking it out. I always start these things in the same manner, and that is to ask you as the guest to do a brief introduction on yourself so that the listeners know where you, Sean Hurwitz, is coming from during the course of this interview. So if you wouldn't mind, tell the world who you are.
Sure thing. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I listened to you. I kind of found out about you from hearing your interview with Alex Fetter.
Good guy.
And I learned so many things about him. I had to hit you up. I was like, this is an awesome interview. I'm gonna hit him up. So I'm gonna hit Trav up. So a little about me. Born and raised in Israel. Did a lot of audio engineering there as well as music. Moved to America, born to American parents, so I am an American citizen as well. Moved here when I was 23 and wanted to be a full-time musician. That ended up working out. I've been very, very lucky to have played all over the world with some very big names and hopefully continue to do that for the next 30, 40 years or so.
Yeah, amazing. And we're going to spend a lot of time, obviously, talking about the music business today. But before we kind of jump straight into that, I'd like to know a little bit more about the music industry in Israel. Obviously, it's been a few years, but tell me about that. And then how did you get work as an audio engineer before eventually moving to Los Angeles?
Two good questions. So you mentioned it's been a second since I've been in the music industry in Israel. It has grown immensely, but and it was wonderful back then, and it's wonderful now. Very, very diverse, very diverse. However, it's such a small place that your ceiling is like right above your head. That you're just there's just a limited amount of opportunities that you can make happen in Israel. That you can there's a limited amount of success you can get to, and part of the way I know this is when I was working audio. The way I got to audio is I studied audio engineering in a school called Sound by Yoav Gera. Yoav Gera is an audio engineer there. And I went and studied a couple of years. I studied, there were 5. There was studio, live, radio, TV, and movies. Right. So those are the 5 things, post-production for movies. As soon as I started, I got the opportunity. They came and they said, hey, if anyone's looking to work in these different jobs, here are some employers that are looking. One of those employers was Musical Connection, a company in Jerusalem where I was from. And I went and worked at it. And I basically started from just not even knowing what the difference between a mic cable and a speaker cable is. And within a few years, I was running a lot. I was like the foreman there. I was doing a lot of I was the main dude.
Yeah.
Lucky me. So one of the other things that I was doing there is also, I was working freelance a lot as an audio engineer, as well as with the Musical Connection. And I also got into backlining. I was a backliner. What you in America, people would refer to you as the tech, the guitar tech, the drum tech, except in Israel, you're the backliner. There's one of you, and you're taking care of everything.
Cool.
So I got into that. I really, really loved both aspects of working with that. Now, working as an audio engineer, I would do these massive, for Israel, massive festivals, and I would do everything from bar mitzvahs to festivals, right? But I would also, on the backlining side, I got to work one-on-one with some of the biggest names in Israel. And I couldn't help but notice that the biggest names, the most famous musicians in Israel, were living okay. I'm sure they were happy, but I was looking at it as a 20-something-year-old thinking, is this it? Like, if I'm successful in Israel, like I'm talking multi-generational successful, this is what I'm aspiring to. I kind of like, that's cool, but I kind of have more that I want to do.
Yeah.
So eventually I knew I wanted to come to America, eventually to give it a shot. And eventually I did. I'm not sure if your questions later will take us into how I got to America, but eventually I did make it to America, and I'm glad that I did. Like I said, what an experience. And I definitely broke some amazing ceilings that I couldn't have broken in my home country. It's just not big enough, but this place, America, is definitely big enough, and I made the right decision.
Dude, I mean, as somebody who's immigrated more than once, I can totally relate. It's almost like, and I'm not trying to sound derogatory to the people who stay, but you do, you've got to kind of follow your dreams and at least give it a shot, because you can always go back to being a big fish in a small pond, versus maybe becoming a big fish in a big pond. I don't know. That's the way I look at it. We are going to talk about your move to LA. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you end up in LA at age 23. I read on your website that an unfortunate terrorist attack did prompt your decision. I wish these people would stop killing people. That's a whole nother thing. But
Yep.
Let's get into your experience living in LA. And I really want to talk to you about location in general. How important, and you might have covered some of this in your previous answer, but how important do you feel location is, especially in the current modern music industry?
That's a great question. If you asked me that 20 years ago, I would say you got to be physically in one of the hubs. Hubs being New York, Miami, Nashville, Los Angeles, London. You want to be in a big city where there's a lot of music, there's a lot of entertainment. It's all happening right there. You want to be in it. I still feel like if you're just starting out, you want to be in a hub. You want people to be able to see you and shake your hand and talk to each other and just meet. It's very important. With that said, once you've established yourself to an extent, depending what direction you want to go in the music industry, I don't think you have to be in a hub anymore. Considering the internet, if you're recording music, most of the music that I record, and I would say 50% of the music that I produce for other artists, is done in what you see here by myself here in the studio. If they're local, they'll come join me here for some of it. If they're further away, they won't. I'll never see them in person. I'll just do everything here. They'll record some vocals there, wherever they are, and that's it. If you're doing sync music for TV and film, really doesn't matter at all where you are, as long as your stuff is great. If you're a touring musician, if you're established, if you already have the touring musician, if you already got the bands that you're working with, it could be anywhere that's an hour and a half away from an international or some sort of airport, and you're good. But let's go back to it. If you're just a beginning musician and you want to leave Ohio and go and you're 18, 20, 22 and you want to give it a shot, or I met someone yesterday from Connecticut. He came here 10 years ago. and gave it a shot and is doing amazing stuff. You kind of want to be in a hub and kind of get to know people, even in 2024. It's important because if anyone that's listening to this has seen my videos on YouTube, one of the things that I say is a few of the videos are about networking and how to get like auditions and stuff like that. People want to play with their friends.
Yeah.
People want to play with people they know that will do a great job and are a great person to hang out with. You want to be that person.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to meet these people and to audition. You're going to get more auditions if you're in town than if you're somewhere else. And I've had many friends that, hey, I'm moving to, I don't know, Connecticut. If anything comes up, let me know. And I'm just like, dude, you're an insane drummer, but there's like 20 people I know that are here they don't have to fly in. Like I love you. I'd love to play with you, but they're probably going to be auditioning before you. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And that's for auditions. But yeah, hopefully that sort of answers the question.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, so this is going to seem a little bit redundant because I was going to say once in the place that the musician believes is right for them. But I do agree there are hubs. Let's, for sake of the question, assume that someone's done their research, whether they're an artist trying to kind of make it or a musician trying to get involved with an artist in some lights. They find the location that they believe is the correct location for them. What, in your experience, is or was the best way for you to network, or for a musician to just try get out there once they're in that location that they feel is the right location for them?
I can tell you how I did it. It's probably what I would tell any other musician to do right now, or any other artist, is you need to get out there as much as possible. In fact, I'm going to give that advice to Amir Ben-Ami, who was a guitarist in a band called Hadag Nachash in Israel. Very, very famous band. They've been around for a few decades now. And I was their backliner. And at the time, Emil was playing. And I asked him, I remember where we were and everything. And I said, hey, man, everyone knows me as a backliner and audio engineer. Like, I'm doing great. My career is awesome. I'm working with everyone knows Shachar Hurwitz, my real name, in Israel, in that business. But no one knows that I play guitar. How do I get out there? Basically what you just asked me in a different way.
Yeah.
And he said, dude, you just have to go and play with everyone. Doesn't matter if you're playing covers. Doesn't matter if you're playing anything. Like, people need to physically see you playing. And then they'll be like, oh, he plays guitar. I didn't know that. Or maybe he sings. I don't sing. That's Alex Feder sings. I don't sing lead. But if you're an artist and you play an instrument and you sing, the best advice is get out there. So when I came here, I took his advice to heart, and I happened to get a wonderful job at Guitar Center. Wonderful place to start your first, few years in LA, because you're meeting everyone you meet is a musician or an artist.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And you're seeing gear all the time. You're talking to gearheads about gear. It's great. There's a lot of mutual kind of foundation that you guys can talk about. And with that said, I auditioned for everything. I played for anything and everything. I took every opportunity to go and show off what I do. Some of the people that I played for, I was way above their pay grade. And some of the people that I got a chance to play for, I was like, I am I can't come back here. This is insane. Like, I am not at their level. So you meet people from both sides of the spectrum and everything in the middle. But you make an impression. That's the important thing, is you make an impression as a human being, as a person. You may not be right for this gig. You may not be qualified for it. You may be too qualified for it. But the point is, you made an impression. Yeah. And they might say to the next person, hey, this guy wasn't right for our jazz gig, but you're looking for a rock guy? This guy is great. Like, he's got a great attitude about him. He came in prepared. I would definitely give him a shot. So that's the advice, is really get out there any way you can and let people know who you are, what you do, I'm gonna caveat that with one thing though. Don't go out and expect everyone to do things for you. That's not how it works. The very best you can do is try to figure out what you can do for them. But in the middle of that is just be yourself and meet people, be genuine, do a great job. And that's it. If that's the very least you're going to do, and do it with everyone.
Yeah. Great advice, dude.
Thank
After paying many dues, you eventually end up playing in pop rock band Smash Mouth. Talk to me about how this opportunity came about, and if you could, what might you advise musicians to ensure that if they were to receive such an opportunity, that they'd be in the right headspace to try and level up their gig?
I'm going to address the ending part first of that question because I think it is a very important thing. I tell people, when you finally get the opportunity, you better be ready.
Mm.
You might have a day to learn a whole set and go in there on stage, no rehearsal, and impress them. And if you impress them, that's where you want to be. If you do a shit job, well, anyone could have done a shit job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you get that call, whether it's me getting the call for Smash Mouth or Enrique or Nick Carter, or Phil X, I don't know if you know Phil.
Yeah, of course.
Many
Yeah.
people know Phil X getting a call to come play with Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
I mean, you better be ready to come in and nail it above and beyond. So that's my answer to the last, to the ending of your question. Can you repeat the beginning of the first question?
Yeah, I was wondering how the opportunity to eventually land up playing in Smash Mouth came about.
Well, I sort of covered it in what I said before, networking and doing a great job and meeting people. In this case, years prior to that, so that was 2011.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say 2006-ish, maybe 2005. I met a wonderful drummer. Funny, because he was playing with Phil X when I met him.
Oh, wow.
When I saw him play. Yeah. So he was playing with Phil X in Phil's band, The Drills. And he was this Canadian dude. Randy Cook was the drummer for Smash Mouth, still is the drummer for Smash Mouth, as well as many other huge acts. He just played on the first single in a long time for Billy Joel, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, wow.
The new one. I got to know him on that gig. I was so impressed by him. Everything about him playing was blowing me away. You have to see him to understand what I'm talking about. I can get into it, but let's just come to a Smash Mouth show and see this dude play. He is an amazing drummer. I made sure to connect with him. We ended up being very friendly with each other. At one point, we ended up playing together with a band that I was playing with. He came in to play for one of the rehearsals. Long story short, he ended up, for whatever reason, thankfully, being impressed. Maybe that's the word. Maybe just he saw value in what I was bringing at rehearsals.
Cool.
And thought that I would be the right person for a few gigs that he was on. So he brought me on. And I remember, this is important. I say this in many interviews. I remember I did one gig with him where I came to the rehearsal, and for the guitarists among us, you'll understand, there were different in the songs we were playing, there were guitars in 4 or 5 different tunings. Very different tunings, not like drop D. I'm talking like different tunings. And I came in with my amp, with my cab, and 4 or 5 different guitars. And he's like, "What's all this?" And I said, "Well, they're just different tunings. I wanted to be prepared for everything." And he said to me, "Keep doing what you're doing, man. It's going to pay off." Because he saw that I was serious about it, that I wasn't slacking. I did my work. I came in prepared. And that's super important. He eventually brought me on in 2011. There was an opportunity. Greg Camp, for whatever reason, the original guitarist for Smash Mouth, wonderful person, amazing musician, and songwriter. He, for whatever reason, had left. They were going to Iraq and Kuwait for a 3-week tour for the troops in 2.5 weeks or 2 weeks, something like that. I don't remember. He called, he said, "Hey, are you available?" I said, "Yes." and the rest is history. I basically, at that point, by the time I got the material, I had 3 days to learn an hour and a half set. It was 23 songs, if I'm not mistaken. Some of them are quick and fast, and kind of punky. So there was 23 songs. I had to learn them. No, you're not reading charts. You're the lead guitar. You're the only guitarist. You're there rocking. So I had to learn them verbatim in 3 days, and then I went up with them and we rehearsed a little, and then took off to Iraq and Kuwait. But what was I saying? So 2 things. Randy mentioned to me, like, keep doing what you're doing. And that was being serious. That was doing the homework. That was coming in prepared. I took everything that he had said that day and continued it in 2011 when I met him, and got everything ready in 3 days. And that's it. Do all of that and be ready for when you get that call, because eventually, if you're playing your cards right and you're in the hub, you are going to get that call. That's one of the beautiful things about Los Angeles. I tell this to anyone that talks to me that is thinking of migrating from somewhere else. And they say, you got to know 2 things about LA. One is there's a million of you. They're better looking than you. They're younger than you. They play better than you. They're simply better musicians than you. That being said, so basically I'm saying no matter who you are a tiny little speck of sand in the Los Angeles musician scene. However, it is LA. There is room for everyone that is going to do their job. So if you're one of the that's not slacking, that's going out there and networking, that's going out there and doing stuff, that's going out doing stuff for other people, that's going out there and really bringing a level of professionalism as a human being, as a musician, you will get the call. I guarantee it. You will get the call.
Yeah.
Be ready when you do.
I love the fact that you are transparent about how much you care. And I don't mean to kind of just blow false smoke your way kind of thing. I obviously have these conversations a lot, and touch wood, 99.9% of everybody I speak to is just a pro, but I do have a lot of conversations away from this podcast too, just with musicians and performers, entertainers. And a lot of musicians seem to have this stereotype that it's I just don't care, bro. I'm so cool and I don't plan anything. And you're like, dude, I do this as a job. I know you care. This is just an act you're putting on. So I love the fact that comes through. Good job.
Not necessarily. Some people don't care. So if you have, and I've said this many times throughout my career, I feel like no matter what business you go into, 80% of the people that are looking at an early age, whatever you decide to do, 80% of the people that are your colleagues are not going to end up doing that. So you have 100 musicians in your high school, 80% of them, or 80 of them, probably will not end up doing it professionally for a living. Then you have 15, 20%, let's say 20%, you have the 20 that actually will, at least for a certain amount of time, successfully do this and actually bring in money. And then you have 2% out of that 20 that are Randy Cook, that are Phil X, both actually Canadian. So you have those guys that are just top notch. Everyone knows them, play with everyone, getting gigs that size. But you have to remember, all you have to do, you don't have to be better than the million musicians in LA. You just have to be serious enough, and that'll get you in the 20%.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't matter how much that guy is. I'm not a shredding musician. I am not. I do what I do well. Don't get me wrong, but I am. But if I get a call to play jazz, I will send you to a cat that is a jazz guy. If I get a call to do a session and I can hear this is shred fest, I love the fact that you called me. I'm not your guy. Let me send you to someone that can do this job right. Yeah. And believe it or not, saying no sometimes to work is appreciated. Like sometimes they'll appreciate, thank you for sending me to him. He did a great job. Yeah. And I'm going to hit you up when I need some of what you do very well. It's appreciated.
What are your thoughts on the music industry currently? And if possible, would there be any changes you would like to make if they were possible to make?
Yes. The music industry is not doing amazing right now. What's wrong with it? I can't really say anything bad about the live industry. I think that is doing just fine. I think what's wrong right now with the music industry is the amount of time people put into learning how to play, learning how to produce, learning how to make amazing music, and then the money that they're getting from it. It's not what it used to be. Whether you're looking at sync for TV and film, where streaming has really screwed up the flow of royalties, because you make music, you put it out there, and then what used to pay a song that used to pay $500 just for one placement in the Kardashians, and it played 4 times, and you played for 17 seconds, and you get a $500. That's, you're looking at your statement from BMI or ASCAP or CSAC, and you see that that specific part made you $512 for a 17-second part of your song. Well, great. That exact thing on Netflix or whatever streaming is playing the Kardashians made you 13 cents. We are in a streaming world. That's not going to change. I'm not looking to change that. But that is a downfall. That is a problem. It also is good that it's so much easier for people to make music in their home. With that said, that also means there's an insane amount of supply and not enough demand to necessitate all that supply. So it's just a supply and demand thing. You have too much supply, the money goes down.
Yeah.
Even though there's a million more shows than there used to be, but they're streaming. So they're already not paying a lot on the back end. And now you have, instead of 100 people that are trying to submit to that show, you have 100,000 people that are trying to submit to that show through 10,000 different libraries. So it's a supply and demand thing. That's not going to change. One thing that I would like to see change. So that's the bad thing about it. Like I said, live is fine. Live is fine. TV and film is not doing amazing. Spotify, I'm taking Spotify as an example, but streaming, again, music, you put your heart and soul into it. You put it online together with 100 million other people that have put on content this year, and it's paying you 0.0001 cent for every spin. And even if you have 1,000 people, even if you have 10,000 people, even if you have 50,000 people that listen this month, you're really not going to make money from it. It's not like it used to be. What would I like to see change is, I don't think it'll happen, but a union. What's made the difference for, I got all businessy in this question, huh? What has made and will continue to make difference for the actors and the writers and the people in the entertainment industry of TV and film, not music, just TV and film world, is that they are unionized. Now, not everything that is filmed is union, but when Netflix wants to make a show, they need the gaffers to be union. They need the lighting people to be union. They need the audio people to be union. They need everyone on their set union. You know who they don't need unionized? They don't need any of the music to be unionized.
Yeah.
They could have someone in-house making the music for them. They could have me making the music for them. They could have you making it. They could have a 13-year-old in his basement making the music for them if it sounds right for the show. So, and therefore, we are left very, very unprotected. Myself and the future generations of musicians and music writers are left very, very unprotected in this world of streaming. That's what I would like to see change. I think it's a little too late for that game, but I don't know. What do you think?
Dude, I don't even know. I mean, I think that would be a great way to do it if you could unionize it. unionize it. I know that it works in the classical world. I mean, I've
Yeah.
been in studios where the classical musicians will be hired to work for a set amount of hours, and they will not go 1 minute over without, union rates being applied, etc., etc., etc. I think where it gets difficult in the contemporary world, and this is purely my opinion, but I think where it gets difficult is you're fighting so many different elements, right? Like it's no different to like a let's just say a standard gig situation. If a band gets a gig at a venue and they know that they're going to get a certain amount of money, and then that venue decides they don't want to pay that money anymore, there's always a different band that will play for less, right? We're fighting against ourselves. And I think that like the industry, if you want to word it like that, and again, this is purely my opinion, but I think it's easy for the industry to screw musicians when it comes to money because, and I don't want to get scrutinized for saying this, but a lot of musicians screw themselves or
Yeah.
each other because, you might get a call for a guitar gig and they'll say, hey, Sean, I'm going to give you, I don't know, $1,000 to go play this show. And then amongst their management team, they go, ooh, man, couldn't we get someone to play for $500? And they phone the next guy and, oh, I'll do it for $500. And then the next guy just wants to get on the gig so badly that he'll do it for $100. And so it's no different to politics, right? Like if everybody could just learn that we could live in unison and that these other matters don't really matter, we probably would have more of a say as a community, as a population, as a people. But until that happens, and I don't foresee it happening, I just don't know how it would change. Because, listen, I was a punk 15, 16-year-old trying to get into the music industry at one point too, and I would happily play for a case of beer at that point in my life, and it's like, you were just so happy to do the gig. And don't get me wrong, I'm still happy to do gigs, but somewhere along the line, if we could just understand that we're actually more valuable than just getting in the door,
I agree 100% with everything you said. Yeah, I just agree with it. I don't see it getting solved in the ways that we're talking about with musicians. Because again, like what you said, I'll just elaborate a little longer. You're just happy to get on a gig, man. I mean, I can't believe I'm playing with X.
Yeah.
I don't care what they're paying me.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't necessarily, as a business person, you wouldn't necessarily say that to them. Yeah, I don't care what you pay me, but you just went from working at Guitar Center to doing this, and they're going to pay you how much? Today, I look back and I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't do it now for that amount of money, but then, hell yeah! So I don't know how you solve that.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if you can solve that because look at us talking about it. Music is a passion.
Yeah.
You were willing to do it for some beer. I will do it for free just to get to play with these amazing musicians. That's what makes our business so wonderful.
Yeah.
And so also shooting ourselves in the foot.
Very much so. I digress. Talk to me about what you believe has been the hardest parts about sustaining a career as a self-employed musician for yourself.
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think a lot of people struggle with it. I'll give you the solution because I think that I've found a good way to do it. So I have had the hard part. Okay, what's the hard part? Making sure you have money. Because as a live musician, if we're touching on that, if that's what you choose to do, you may very well, first of all, you may have very spotty dates, right? You may be working for a month with Nick Carter, and that's it. And then they're not working for another 2 years. Or you may be going on the road with Enrique and he's doing 10 shows a year. So just because you're with a big name doesn't mean that you're rich. It doesn't mean that suddenly all your bills are paid. So that's the problem, right? You may be, and if you're successful, even like, dare I say myself, I consider what I've done in my eyes, I've been successful in the life that I came here to do, in the life I came here to make. But but I still struggle. The end of the year, the last quarter of the year, the last 2-3 months of the year, and the first 2-3 months of the year can usually be pretty empty because it's for live musicians, because many reasons. Actually, for studio musicians and people that are in post-production as well, because or doing music for sync for shows, because the industry kind of shuts down in December because of the holidays, and the industry slowly starts ramping up back in January. The reason why I had the fortune of going out in January of this year and playing with Nick Carter for a month down south in South America and Central America is because if you play south of the equator, New Zealand, South Africa, or not just South Africa, but the southern part of Africa, Australia, South America, Central America, if you play south of the equator, it's summertime.
Yep.
They're having festivals while people are in the snow here, not in Los Angeles. But the point is, if you work south of the equator in those months, you'll be busy. But if you're working with a band or an artist or many artists or bands that are not necessarily working those months down south of the equator, you're going to look at no work from that specific artist for a few months, at the very least, or at the very least. So as I started with the solution, I have found the solution, and I preached to many people about the solution. You really got to hustle. You have to be doing a bunch of stuff. Let's take me as an example. I am a songwriter with artists and by myself. I am a producer with artists and by myself. I have hundreds of songs on TV and film, making me what we call mail money or whatever. I forget what there are different words for it, but the point is passive income.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm working in the studio or relaxing in my house or on the road, those songs are out there making money for me. I also, when I've made enough money, when I have good money coming in, I don't necessarily go and buy new gear. I will put it away in savings. When I have enough savings, I have gone and bought myself a property in Los Angeles. And then when I had more savings, I went and bought multiple rental properties in different places for, again, passive income. So the idea is to hustle. The idea is that even when I have some time off at home, like I do this March, I've got nothing going on the live scene, but I am writing with artists. I am producing. I am doing this wonderful podcast with you and getting my name out there to possibly more artists and musicians that might use my services. I am still making music for TV and film in the studio. I am also looking into getting some more properties currently. So the name of the game is hustle and have many different eggs in many different baskets. And if, it kind of reminds me of when I left Guitar Center. When I left Guitar Center, I was working for 7 bands. I didn't necessarily want to leave Guitar Center, but the store manager, honestly, at the time was making it so difficult to be in the position that I was in. And I just logistically and reasonably looked at what I needed to live on, how much money I needed. And I looked at how much money I'm making consistently with the 7 bands, and said, yeah, I can live on that. I'm gonna make this call. I'm leaving Guitar Center. I could always go back, right? But I was with 7 bands, and my point is I wasn't with 7 bands simultaneously. Some of the bands were doing a show this month, and they had 5 rehearsals that I was being paid for in that show. Maybe 2 of the bands were doing that. One of the bands were they were recording an album, and one of the bands was in the place where they were starting to write, and maybe they wanted me to be a part of it. Maybe they were paying me, maybe they weren't, but it means that in a few months we would be recording. The other 3 bands were taking a hiatus, but that's okay because these 4 bands were working. So as long as you have multiple sources of income, that is the solution for the working musician.
Yeah.
That is a solution for the middle-class working musician. Obviously, if you are Joe Perry playing for Aerosmith, you're good. But for people like myself, and dare I say, Alex Feder. I think of him as a colleague in the same kind of position. He plays with a lot of different amazing artists as well. You hustle and you bring business in, and you try to always have multiple things going on.
Yeah. Without trying to sound punny, that answer's on the money.
Ew.
You've mentioned syncing, or sync in general quite a few times. Talk to me about your position with that. How do you monetize your songs or your compositions? Do you work for a specific agent? Do you work for multiple agents? Do you just compose and put them up on these kind of purchase audio kind of websites, licensing websites? What's your approach? Do you have an agent that pitches you, that says, I need music for this type of situation? Or do you just produce music when you're on your own and put it up in hopes that maybe someone wants to license it for a commercial or a television program or a movie or a corporate event or whatever?
It's kind of a mixture of all of those, except for I don't put my music up on places where people can buy them. Buy them, they can license them, but they can't necessarily buy them and put their top line music and words, lyrics and melody on top of it, and then it's their song. So I started this in 2006. I want to point out, because we are talking business, in 2006 to 2014, I was doing this. In 2013, at the end of 2013, I got burnt out on it and just didn't want to go into the studio anymore. Then I got into real estate investing, and then a few years later had sold my entire catalog to an investor, got a chunk of money, and bought real estate investments with it. Then a few years later, I came back and started a new catalog.
Yeah.
So I just want to let people know that is absolutely an option, if that's something you're looking for, to play around with it in different ways. Now, sync. So like I said, started in 2006. Really, at the time, it was about writing songs with a bunch of different people and producing those said songs and getting them to specific libraries I was working for. That has been my MO for most of my sync career, except for my latest catalog. I had sold the first one. So for and for those of you who don't know what catalog is, it's a batch of songs.
Yeah.
Right. So I basically sold all of my rights to those songs and then started a whole new one. The new one was consistent of me spending time in this studio by myself, writing hundreds and hundreds of instrumental tracks for probably a dozen to 24 different libraries, both exclusive and non-exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Both just coming up with like, hey, I have this idea. Let me put it down in 6 hours and we're done. And I have it. Let me pitch it to these libraries that I know are looking for stuff like that. As well as, what are these libraries looking for? Let's look at some of their, I forget the word for it, but they send out like, hey, there's a scene.
Briefs.
And what is it? Briefs. Thank you. They send you a brief, and basically the brief, for those of you who don't know, describes this is the scene. This is the kind of vibe that we're looking for. It needs to sound like X, Y, and Z. This is what's happening in the scene. Make sure you have oohs and ahs in it, as well as just the instrumental, but no lyrics, as an example. That would be a brief. And we need it to be 45 seconds long. Okay, cool. And then I would go and follow their directions and do exactly that and hope that I would get the spot. So I've done all of the above. I've done it for one of my favorite ones, actually, just coming to me right now because we discussed Phil X. Phil had put in a recommendation for me back in the day. He was working with a wonderful company that was doing, what was he doing? They were doing, I forget what it's called, but radio spots. So basically every radio has their logo, right? But it's the verbal logo. It's the like, Hit Radio Udrai.
Exactly, yeah.
What do you call that?
Jingle.
Do you remember?
A jingle.
Well, a jingle, but there's something more to it. It's like the ID or something.
It's like a tag.
Anyway, the point is, yes. So they this company was a company here that was hired by different companies worldwide to do that for them. the company there had briefs, and then the company here would hire different people like Phil, and Phil recommended me for some of them. So like myself, all these wonderful composers to look at the briefs and give and create them and then give them to the client. It was a wonderful experience. And it was really, really cool. So that's another example of sync and film and radio world that you could do.
Yeah.
So I would say I do all of the above that you mentioned, except for I don't make beats and then put them on YouTube and say, hey, if you're going to download this beat and use it, you have to tag me or you have to pay me $20 to use it, to license it. That's not really my thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know that you have your YouTube channel. It's come up a couple times while we've been talking. Little side plug for the listeners who are listening to this episode, check out Sean's YouTube channel. Tons of great advice on there. What I would like to know, I know from doing this podcast that content creation takes a lot of time. So obviously your YouTube channel creates holes or pockets where you've got to give time to creating that content. Talk to me about how important you feel it is to diversify in terms of, I know we've now covered it with the sync, but do you sort of long-term see that the YouTube channel, if you see how guys like Rick Beato have created this whole new career as a musician on a YouTube channel. I mean, to the point that he's no longer even producing from what I'm reading, which, you wouldn't have to. You're making that much money off YouTube. Is that something that you would be open to kind of in the future, that maybe, hey, this could become a career for me? Or at this point, is it just a way to diversify your portfolio in the same way that you're focusing on sync, you're focusing on YouTube, you're focusing on real estate, you're focusing on guitar playing, songwriting, etc., etc.? What is it for you?
First of all, to answer the question simply, yeah, absolutely. I'm always looking for the next hustle, I want to say, but I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just looking for the next thing. Specifically with YouTube, I'd be happy to do that. However, my thing with YouTube was something else. It's one of the things that I did, believe it or not, more out of a philanthropic, is that the way you say that word? Like a philanthropy.
Yeah.
I wanted to give back. That's why I did that. I have never made a cent from YouTube. Maybe one day I will. I think it's up to me now. I actually have to take care of some stuff there. But if I make money from it, great. That wasn't the reason why I did it. The reason why I did it was because I wanted to make content simply to help the future musicians turn their passion into a career. When I say career, I mean something that will pay the bills.
Yeah.
That's all I was trying to do. And in fact, for those people who are following me on YouTube, thank you very much for plugging that. There is a lot, I think, of valuable content out there.
There is.
I haven't made anything new in a long time for the simple reason that I said everything I had to say. I gave a lot of advice, and I at a certain point, I was kind of racking my brain for what have I not spoken about that could help people, that I could give value to. And I was like, I think I kind of covered everything that I feel confident about. So I'm good.
Yeah.
And that's where it ended. It very well may continue at a certain point, but as long as my point is, it may start generating money at a certain point, that or something else. But for me, YouTube was a form of just giving back to the community. And I think it has helped people. I answer everyone that comments on my posts. Yesterday, as an example, I had put up a video on YouTube about Reunion Blues gig bags. They're one of the companies that I work with that endorses me, and I endorse them. And they had sent me a gig bag specifically for Les Paul. I made a video. I said, yes, please, I'd love to have that. And in return, I will make a video about the amazing gig bags because I love them. And I made a very detailed video about it. And someone commented yesterday, hey man, I love the reunion blues gig bags, but I never thought that the Les Paul would be something that I need, the Les Paul gig bag. This video really opened my eyes to that. So thank you for making it. Like, you really got into detail about what makes this bag unique. Do you think that I could use this gig bag for my Telly or Strat? And I told him, I said, listen, do me a favor, hit me up on Instagram, DM me. I'm sure you know how to find me. If you don't, let me know. And I will send you a video, because I don't think it'll work. I will send you a video of how my Strats look in the Strat and
Cool.
Telly look in there. He hit me up on the thing. I sent him a video. It was very helpful for him. I have done what I was looking out to do.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's amazing. And also really
So
kind.
if I make money someday from it, awesome.
Yeah.
If not, I'm good.
Yeah, and it could always be something that you come to as you think of things you want to say. It doesn't have to be forced. It's like we started this whole conversation talking about how, like, I like to try keep the podcast organic. Your YouTube channel could just remain organic versus like forcing content, because people will see through that, I think, you know. All right,
Yeah.
Sean, we're at that dreaded time where I ask you the last question of the interview, please. I would like to know, what has been the best piece of advice you've ever received in regards to your music career? Or if you don't have something that was necessarily advice, what do you think has been the best thing you've learned along the way that has helped your music career?
I don't think it's going to be anything new for those who have listened thus far to this podcast. It really is. I have learned from amazing professionals to always be professional, always be on time or early, always be the best that you can be when you're in this gig, right? Don't just slack off. That's what I've learned from people. I think the best thing that I could offer to people, and that I've learned from looking at people, is from looking at successful musicians, is networking is crucial. But when I say networking, please don't think that means going to parties and meeting people that you think can do things for you. No, that's not what I mean by networking. I mean going to parties and meeting people who you think you can make their life better, whether it's writing an amazing song for them, maybe helping them out with their love life, maybe they're doing amazing, but you can see their health is slacking. Maybe you could help them with that, because that's something that you can be of value to them. So it doesn't have to do with music. Just go out there, be genuine, and see how you can help other people. Believe me, if that is really you, it will come back. If you're faking it, then I don't know. I can't speak to that. But if you are genuinely a person that likes to help other people and goes out there to seek ways of helping other people, it will come full circle. You will see the karma from it, and it will come back and help you out. You know what I mean? But it's very important. I call it organic networking. Don't go out there and expect people to do shit for you.
Yeah.
Just because you met them and bought them beer or something. Like
yeah.
that would be my advice, and advice that I've gotten from other people.
Yeah. It's great advice.
Hopefully that helps someone.
I'm sure it will. I know I always find these interviews so inspiring, and I'm sure that the listeners will too. We're going to end it there. Sean, dude, thank you so much for joining me on the Musician's Mentor podcast. I wish you nothing but the best for your future endeavors. This is how I started my Friday today, and I'm going to head to a gig soon, and I just love it because I'm like all like revved up, just inspired. So thanks for the inspiration, buddy. Truly appreciate your time.
That's awesome. Thanks for having me. I'm glad it started your day right.
Yeah, no, me too. Thank you, man. Peace. There we have it. Sean Hurwitz, everybody. I'd like to publicly say thank you to Sean for his time. I'd like to publicly thank each and every one of you who is supporting this podcast for your time. As usual, and I know I said it at the top of the episode, but please leave me a rating or review. It's really helpful, and I would appreciate it greatly. My name is Travis Mark. You can find out more about me at the musicians-mentor.com website. Until then, keep working, work diligently, practice hard, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.